My world has long since ceased to be confined to the walls of this Victorian mansion on the outskirts of Lynn. Yes, I am 75, but that is no sentence. Sometimes I pause in front of the mirror in the hallway and note with satisfaction that the years have hardly changed my sharp gaze and determined expression. Wrinkles? Of course, but they are evidence of a life full of discoveries and adventures. A life in which I, Beatrice Stevenson, traveled half of Europe studying the dialects of the Romance languages. November in Massachusetts is not warm, but I have long been accustomed to this climate. I throw a wool cardigan over my shoulders, a gift from my late husband, and head to the kitchen. Breakfast is a sacred ritual for me. Strong tea, toast with jam, and, unfortunately, a handful of pills that the doctors strongly recommend. Arthur, my husband, always joked that with my bright mind I didn't need any medication. 7 years have passed and I can still hear his voice. From the kitchen window I can see the house of Olivia, my only daughter. White siding, black roof, perfect lawn. It's funny that our houses are so close, yet there are miles of misunderstanding between us. Olivia has been a difficult child since childhood. Independent, withdrawn, with a constant feeling that I pay too much attention to work and not enough to her. The more I tried to get closer, the more she pushed me away. Arthur was our peacemaker, but after his death, the wall between us only grew higher. Now my daughter is 39, and she still treats me like a stranger, politely asking about my health on Sundays, bringing groceries, and leaving immediately, as if afraid to stay longer than necessary. I finish my tea and take out a leather-bound notebook, my observation journal. It's a professional habit, to record all the oddities and patterns. For the past 3 months, I've been keeping notes on my son-in-law, Tristan Abbott. A strange choice for my pragmatic daughter, a charismatic man with European manners and perfect French. Tristan works at the consulate, or so he says. But my powers of observation, honed by years of research, notice inconsistencies. His visits home at odd hours, phone calls in French in the garden when he thinks no one can hear him, a sharp, commanding tone that I have never heard in his usual conversations. I write down November 14th, 10:30 a.m. Tristan was talking on the phone in the garden again. He mentioned shipment and documents, the second such conversation in a week. I am not prone to paranoia, but something about his behavior alarms me. Something insincere. Years of linguistic analysis have taught me to read not only texts, but also people. And Tristan is a book with a double meaning. The doorbell interrupts my thoughts. Piper, my 6-year-old granddaughter with a mop of red hair and freckles all over her face, is standing on the doorstep. "Grandma!" She throws herself into my arms with the energy of a little hurricane. "Piper!" What a lovely surprise. Sunshine. Behind my granddaughter stands Olivia. Her blonde hair is pulled back into a perfect bun, and her face wears the expression of someone performing an unpleasant duty. "Mom, I need you to babysit Piper until this evening. I have something urgent to do, and the nanny is sick." I resist the urge to ask why she didn't call ahead. Instead, I smile. "Of course, dear. We'll have a wonderful time, won't we, Piper?" "Yes, I brought my paints. I'll draw you a unicorn." Olivia glances around my house as if conducting an inspection. "I'll be there around 6. Piper has already had lunch, but if she gets hungry, there are cookies and an apple in her backpack. No sweets." "I remember, Olivia," I reply calmly, though inside I'm seething with irritation. My daughter talks to me as if I were an inexperienced nanny, not the woman who raised her. Olivia leaves without saying goodbye. Watching her, I notice Tristan in the car. He doesn't even come out to say hello, just sits behind the wheel, talking intently on the phone. "Grandma, let's go draw." Piper pulls me by the hand. "Of course, sweetie. But first, let's make some hot chocolate. It's our secret," I wink. Piper laughs, and my heart fills with warmth. I see Arthur's features in her, the same intelligent eyes, the same ability to immerse herself completely in what interests her. Olivia was never like that. We spend the day drawing, reading, and playing old board games that I keep carefully stored in the attic. Piper talks excitedly about school, her friends, and how her dad promised to take her to France. "Have you been to France, Grandma?" "Many times, sweetie. I studied the language there and taught at universities in Paris and Lyon. Dad speaks French. Sometimes he talks on the phone and I don't understand anything. My analytical skills kick in instantly. Does Dad speak French often? Hmm. When he thinks I'm not listening, she whispers conspiratorially. He speaks loudly and strangely. Not like he usually does. I make a mental note to write this down in my diary. Do you understand anything he says? A little. He teaches me to count and say simple words. But when he talks on the phone, he talks so fast that the sounds all run together. Do you know who he's talking to? No. But he always closes the door, and then Mom gets mad. Interesting. So Olivia notices these strange conversations too. By 6 o'clock, Olivia is back. She looks tired and irritated. Tristan isn't with her. Piper, get ready, it's time to go. But Mom, I haven't finished my drawing for Grandma yet. You can finish it another time. I intervene, offering a compromise. Why don't you stay for dinner? I'll make pasta using a recipe I brought back from Naples. No, thank you, we have plans, Olivia says in a tone that brooks no argument. Piper reluctantly gathers her things. I help her pack her drawings, discreetly slipping a small box of chocolates into her backpack. Another secret between us. Can I come tomorrow? Her granddaughter asks, hopefully. No, sweetie, you have ballet tomorrow, Olivia replies emphatically. I hug Piper, whispering in her ear, see you soon, my brave explorer. We'll continue our adventures. After they leave, I don't allow myself to sink into loneliness. Instead, I return to my notes. I add to my diary the information about Tristan's secret French conversations mentioned by Piper. Through the window, I watch Olivia and Piper enter their house. 10 minutes later, Tristan's car pulls up. He gets out, looks around with a wariness that doesn't fit with the image of a typical consulate employee, and quickly disappears into the house. My linguistic intuition and life experience scream, something is wrong. And I intend to find out what it is. After all, I'm not just an elderly woman looking after her granddaughter. I am Beatrice Stevenson, whose research on dialects has been cited in dozens of academic journals, and I know more about languages and communication than Tristan would like. The next morning, I wake up with the first rays of the sun. I perform my ritual. A contrast shower, exercises to maintain flexibility, breakfast. No self-pity. Arthur always said that was the worst way to spend your time. Through the window, I notice Tristan leaving the house and getting into a black sedan. The clock shows only 6:30, unusually early for his standard schedule. He carefully scans the street and only then drives out of the yard. I take out my old binoculars, a remnant of my brief fascination with ornithology, and study their yard. Nothing remarkable. The curtains in Tristan's office are tightly closed, as always. After breakfast, I call Evelyn Rains, my longtime colleague from university. We met in graduate school when we were both studying the linguistic features of Romance languages. Unlike me, Evelyn made a career as a professional translator. Eve, good morning. Bea here. Bea! What a pleasant surprise. How are you? Fine, thank you. Listen, I need your professional advice. Are you still working with French? Of course. It has always been my main language. What's going on? It's about my brother-in-law. He often speaks French, and there are some nuances that bother me. I pause, choosing my words carefully so as not to sound paranoid. And these nuances make you nervous? Evelyn gently probes. Yes. There's something wrong with his manner of speaking, with his choice of words. My knowledge of French isn't as fresh as yours. I understand. Would you like me to come by in the next few days? We can discuss it in person, without prying ears. We agree to meet the day after tomorrow. After hanging up, I feel confident in my decision. Evelyn has always been sharp-minded and straightforward. If my suspicions are unfounded, she will say so without mincing words. The day passes in its usual rhythm. Reading new linguistic articles, I continue to follow developments in my field. Cleaning, walking around the neighborhood. In the evening, while preparing dinner, I notice activity in Olivia's yard. Tristan is in the garden again with his phone. His gestures are sharp, his face tense. I try to make out the words, but the distance is too great. At that moment, Olivia appears. They are arguing about something. My daughter's facial expressions make it clear that the conversation is unpleasant. Tristan waves her away and returns to his phone conversation. Olivia stands there for a few seconds, as if deciding something, then turns abruptly and goes into the house. I record this incident in my diary. I note the time, the approximate duration of the conversation, and details of their behavior. The field research skills I honed in small Italian villages now come in handy for observing my own family. Irony of fate. At night, I dream of Arthur. He is sitting in his favorite chair reading the newspaper. Be vigilant, B, he says without looking up. Something is going on, and it's not just about Tristan. I wake up with a clear head and firm resolve. In the morning, I head to the store, choosing a longer route that passes by Olivia's house. Piper's silhouette flashes in the second-floor window. She notices me and waves with childlike enthusiasm. I wave back, blowing her a kiss. On the way back, I stop at the bookstore and buy a new children's book for my next visit to Piper. Olivia may be limiting our communication, but I won't let her break our bond with our granddaughter. In the evening, I continue my observation. Tristan returns from work and Olivia meets him at the door. From the outside, their interaction seems completely normal, with no traces of the morning's conflict. Then Tristan retreats to his study. The light stays on late into the night. Sometimes a shadow moves behind the curtain. He walks around the room, gesturing as if talking to someone. I close the diary and put it away in a secret compartment in the bookcase, which Arthur had built to store valuable documents. My intuition, honed by years of scientific work and life experience, has never failed me, and now it is screaming, something is wrong. Something dangerous is connected with my son-in-law, his secret conversations in French, and how this affects my daughter and granddaughter. I am not one to ignore warning signs, and I am certainly not a helpless old woman who can be manipulated. Tristan will learn that he has underestimated me and my determination to protect my family. Wednesday began with a biting wind that blew fallen leaves through the streets and made passers-by wrap their coats more tightly around themselves. I decided to visit the local farmers market, a weekly ritual that allowed me to maintain social connections and stock up on fresh produce. Wearing a tweed coat and a hat with a small brim, I headed to the center of Lynn. The market, located in the main square, was always a lively place. Vendors laid out their wares on wooden stalls: vegetables, fruit, honey, homemade baked goods. I leisurely moved from one stall to another, selecting the freshest produce and exchanging news with other regular customers. Beatrice, how are you? I haven't seen you in a long time. Martha, the homemade jam seller, greeted me. Everything's fine, Martha. My granddaughter came to visit recently, so I'm in a great mood. I noticed that on the other side of the square there was a new cafe with the French name Le Coin. Through the large windows, I could see that it was almost empty inside, despite it being lunchtime. I was about to leave the market when I noticed a familiar black sedan parked near the cafe. It was Tristan's car. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to stay. I found a secluded bench in the park opposite, which offered a good view. I took a book out of my bag. An excellent cover for observation. Less than 15 minutes later, Tristan came out of the cafe accompanied by two men. The first was tall, with gray temples and a thin mustache, dressed in an impeccable gray suit. The second was stocky, younger, with a short haircut and a heavy gaze. Both looked like foreigners. Something in their posture and manner of movement betrayed their non-American origins. They stopped near Tristan's car. Judging by their gestures, the conversation was tense. The man with the mustache was explaining something insistently, occasionally touching my brother-in-law's shoulder. Tristan looked uncertain, even a little frightened, an expression I had never seen on his face before. The second man hardly participated in the conversation, but his presence clearly exerted pressure. He stood slightly apart, scanning the surroundings. For a moment, I thought he had noticed me, and I instinctively lowered my head to my book. When I looked up again, the men were already getting into another car, a black SUV with tinted windows and no license plates. Tristan remained standing on the sidewalk, watching them go. Then he glanced sharply around and got into his car. I waited a few minutes before leaving the bench. The strange encounter bothered me. Who were these people? What were they talking about? And why did Tristan, usually so confident, look so alarmed? On the way home, I called Evelyn to confirm our meeting for the next day. She suggested we meet at the city library, a quiet place where we could talk without prying ears. When I got home, the first thing I did was write down everything I had seen in my observation diary, trying not to miss a single detail: the time, the description of the men, Tristan's car number, the location of the cafe. Then I called Olivia. Olivia, dear, it's Mom. What's wrong? Her voice immediately became alert. Nothing serious. I just wanted to see how you were doing. Maybe I'll drop by for tea? Not today, Mom. I have a lot of work to do, and Tristan will be back late. How's Piper? I bought her a new book. She's fine. She's busy with her math tutor. There was an awkward pause. I decided to take a chance. By the way, I saw Tristan in town today, near the new French cafe. There was silence on the other end of the line. Olivia? Yes, maybe. He mentioned he had a business meeting downtown. He was with two men. They looked like foreigners. Mom, her voice grew colder. I don't keep track of my husband's work schedule. He has a lot of international contacts. Of course, dear. I just thought. Look, she interrupted. I appreciate your concern, but please stop following Tristan. It's weird and inappropriate. I felt a wave of indignation rise inside me. I'm not following him, Olivia. I just happen to be at the same market. You happen to be where Tristan is too often. You record his conversations, you watch our house. Piper told me you asked her about how Dad speaks French, so my granddaughter told him about our conversation. And judging by Olivia's tone, Tristan knows too. I'm just worried about you, I tried to explain. No, Mom, that's not worry. That's paranoia. Tristan works at the consulate. He has a confidential job. Of course, he speaks different languages and meets with foreigners. You're making a problem out of nothing. Olivia, listen. No, you listen. Her voice trembled with restrained anger. I'm asking you to stop interfering in our lives. If this continues, we'll have to limit your visits with Piper. That threat hit hardest. You can't take away my relationship with my granddaughter. I can if you continue your strange behavior. Piper comes to you with her head full of disturbing thoughts and secrets from her parents. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. Okay, Olivia, I understand. I hope so. I have to go. She hung up without saying goodbye. I spent the rest of the day in turmoil. Olivia had never threatened to restrict my contact with Piper before. That could only mean one thing. I had hit a nerve. Perhaps Tristan was hiding something, and Olivia knew it. Or she was so under his influence that she was willing to believe any explanation he gave her. Towards evening, I went for a short walk. I needed to clear my head and gather my thoughts before tomorrow's meeting with Evelyn. The November air was fresh and cool. I headed along the familiar route to a small park nearby. When I reached the intersection, I noticed a dark blue car parked across the street. A man was sitting in it, but I couldn't see his face because of the glare from the windshield. But something told me he was watching me. I continued on my way, trying not to show that I had noticed him. When I reached the park, I sat down on a bench and pretended to enjoy the evening peace. A few minutes later, the same blue car slowly drove past the park. There was no doubt about it. I was being followed. My heart was beating faster, but I forced myself to remain calm. I sat there a little longer, then got up and headed home by a different route, constantly checking to see if the car was following me. I didn't see it again, but the feeling of unease stayed with me. At home, I locked all the doors and windows and checked the back door twice. Then I called Evelyn. Eve, it's me. We need to meet tomorrow. Did something happen? You sound strange. I'll tell you tomorrow. But the situation is more serious than I thought. The next morning, I woke up with the first rays of the sun. The night was restless. I dreamed of being chased, of dark figures watching from around the corner. I drank some strong tea, got ready, and went to the library 2 hours before our appointment. I wanted to make sure no one was following me. The Lynn City Library was located in an old red brick building. Inside, it smelled of books, wood, and silence. I chose a table in the far corner of the reading room, from where I had a good view of the entrance, and immersed myself in reading the newspaper, periodically glancing at the door. Evelyn arrived right on time, at 11 o'clock sharp. She was always punctual. Despite being 68 years old, she had retained her slim figure and straight posture. Her chestnut hair, slightly touched with gray, was gathered into a neat bun, and her eyes behind her glasses shone with sharp intelligence. "Bea, dear." She hugged me and sat down opposite me. "Tell me what happened." I described everything in detail. Tristan's strange behavior, his secret conversations in French, Yesterday's meeting with strangers and the subsequent conflict with Olivia, the surveillance. Evelyn listened attentively without interrupting. When I finished, she tapped her fingers thoughtfully on the table. It sounds really alarming, especially considering your powers of observation. You've never been paranoid or prone to exaggeration. Thanks for the kind words, I smiled grimly. What exactly did Piper say about your father's conversations in French? Only that he speaks quickly and sharply, not like he usually does, and that Olivia gets angry afterwards. Evelyn thought. I could help. If you hear another conversation, write down the key words phonetically, or maybe Piper could remember something. Olivia has already accused me of turning my granddaughter against her parents. She's threatening to restrict our contact. That's serious, Evelyn nodded. But if your suspicions are correct, Piper's safety may be at stake. I told her about Tristan's consular work. The French consulate, you say? Evelyn frowned. I have acquaintances in diplomatic circles. I can discreetly inquire about your son-in-law. I would be very grateful. We moved to the library cafeteria, where there was more noise and less chance of being overheard. Over a cup of tea, Evelyn shared her thoughts. B. If you really are being followed, you need to be extremely careful. Don't keep any records that could compromise you. Don't discuss your suspicions on the phone. Do you think it's that serious? I don't know. She shook her head. But it's better to be safe than sorry. Do you have anyone you trust completely besides me? At my age, my circle of friends is shrinking, I smiled bitterly. But there's Leonard, Arthur's former colleague. He worked in security and is now retired. Okay, keep in touch with him. And one more thing, she lowered her voice. If you notice anything really suspicious, don't write it down in your diary, but like this. She showed me a simple cipher, a system of letter substitution that was easy to remember, but difficult to decipher without a key. An old spy trick, Evelyn smiled. It came in handy when I was working as a translator in some countries with questionable regimes. We agreed to talk in 3 days. When Evelyn would have gathered information about Tristan, she gave me a big hug goodbye. Be careful, Bee. And remember, you are not alone. Leaving the library, I felt both alarmed and encouraged. On the one hand, Evelyn's reaction confirmed that my fears were not unfounded. On the other hand, I now had an ally, one who was intelligent and experienced. I decided to go shopping, to create the appearance of a normal day for an elderly woman. I bought groceries and stopped by the pharmacy for some medicine. All the while, I kept a close eye out to see if I was being followed. Twice I thought I saw the same blue car, but I couldn't be sure. When I got home, I saw Olivia coming out of her house. She noticed me but pretended not to see me. It hurt, but I understood that after yesterday's conversation, it would take time for things to calm down. Suddenly, a plan formed in my head. I needed to find out more about Tristan, his contacts, and his real job. And I knew that Piper was my only channel of communication with the inner life of their family. But how could I communicate with the granddaughter if Olivia limited our meetings? The answer came unexpectedly. I remembered that on Wednesdays, Piper attended an art club at the community center. Olivia usually left her there for 2 hours and then picked her up. If I happened to be there at the same time, this plan required caution. I couldn't give Olivia any reason to think I was trying to manipulate her granddaughter or turn her against her parents. But a few innocent questions asked in the right context could give me new information. I walked over to the window and looked at my daughter's house. The light was on in Tristan's office, even though he was usually at work at this time. Something had changed in his schedule. Was it related to yesterday's meeting? Maybe Olivia was right, and I was becoming paranoid. Perhaps Tristan was really doing his usual consular work, and all these secret conversations were part of his diplomatic activities. But my instinct, honed by years of research, told me that something was wrong. And I was determined to find out what it was, especially if it could threaten my granddaughter's safety. 3 days had passed since my meeting with Evelyn. During that time, I had not heard from her, but I had repeatedly noticed signs of surveillance. The same blue car parked a little further down the street. An unfamiliar man watching my house intently from the coffee shop across the street. These details did not escape my attention. I continued to record Tristan's strange behavior, now using the simple code Evelyn had taught me. For the last 2 days, his car had not been seen near the house, which was unusual for his normal schedule. Olivia was also acting strangely, constantly drawing the curtains, talking on the phone for long periods of time, often going out into the yard and looking around. I contacted Leonard, Arthur's old friend, by email, deliberately using vague wording. I set up a meeting for the following week under the pretext of consulting on insurance matters. He agreed, although judging by his response, he understood that the matter was more serious. Today is Wednesday, the day of Piper's art club. I had long ago determined her schedule. Classes start at 3 in the afternoon and end at 5. Olivia usually brings her 15 minutes before the start and returns at the end. The decision came naturally. Today, I would accidentally find myself at the community center where the classes are held. There is a small library there that I sometimes visit. The perfect cover. At 2:30 p.m., I left the house and headed downtown. The Lynn Community Center was located in a renovated historic building, a former factory converted into a cultural cluster. Exhibitions, concerts, educational courses, and children's clubs were held here. I parked nearby and went inside. The lobby was bustling with young mothers with babies, elderly people heading to art classes, and teenagers rushing to dance studio. I went up to the second floor where the library and art classes were located. In the library, I chose a spot by the window with a good view of the hallway and the entrance to the children's studio. I took a book from the shelf and pretended to be engrossed in reading. At exactly 2:45, Olivia and Piper appeared. My daughter looked tense and kept looking back. Piper, on the other hand, was lively and carrying a large folder with drawings. I noticed that Olivia didn't just leave my daughter at the classroom door as usual, but went inside and talked to the teacher, apparently giving some instructions. 10 minutes after Olivia left, I put down my book and walked over to the studio door. Through the glass panel, I could see the children setting up their easels and preparing their paints. Piper was sitting by the window, her red hair immediately standing out among the other children. I returned to the library and continued to wait. Time dragged agonizingly slowly. I periodically peeked out the window to see if Olivia had returned early. At 4:30 p.m., I approached the classroom again. The class was coming to an end and the children were putting away their supplies. At 5 p.m., the classroom door opened and the children began to leave. Piper was one of the last to leave, holding a fresh drawing in her hands, something with bright colors and shapes. "Piper," I called softly. My granddaughter turned around and her face lit up with joy. "Grandma!" She rushed over to me. "Did you come to see my drawings?" "Yes, sweetheart. Will you show me what you drew today?" We moved over to a bench in the hallway. Piper proudly showed me her work, an abstract composition of bright spots and lines. "It's called an emotional landscape," she explained importantly. "Miss Caroline says we should draw what we feel, not what we see." "That's very interesting. And what emotions did you put into this drawing?" Piper thought for a moment, furrowing her brow. "Different ones. Here," she pointed to a bright orange spot, "is the joy I feel when I play with you. And here," her finger slid to a dark blue-purple area, "is when Mom and Dad argue and I feel scared." My heart sank. "Do they fight a lot, sweetie?" "Lately, yes." She lowered her voice. "Dad is always talking on the phone in French and Mom gets angry. Yesterday, they yelled at each other really loudly." I gently stroked her head. "What were they arguing about? Did you hear?" "Mom said Dad promised it would be the last time. And Dad said he had no choice." Piper frowned as she recalled. "Then they noticed I was listening and sent me to my room." "I see." I nodded, trying not to show my concern. "Did Dad say what exactly would be the last time?" Piper shook her head, but then her eyes suddenly widened as if she remembered something. She looked around and leaned toward me. "Grandma," she whispered, "please don't get in the car, my dad." She faltered, as if frightened by her own words. "What about Dad, Piper?" I urged gently. "I heard him speaking French last night." Her voice trembled. "They said your car would explode. My dad gave the order." A chill ran down my spine. I tried to remain calm, even though my heart was racing. "Are you sure you understood correctly, sweetie? French is a difficult language." "I've been learning French for a whole year." Piper said proudly. Dad said, La voiture de la vieille dame. Elle explose demain. I don't know the word explosive, but then he said, Boom! And did this. She spread her arms, imitating an explosion. I swallowed the lump in my throat. La voiture de la vieille dame. The old lady's car. Elle explodes demain. It explodes tomorrow. There was no doubt about it. He was talking about me. Piper, this is very important. Did you hear who Dad was talking to? I don't know his name. Dad called him Monsieur, she replied. Grandma, I'm scared. What does explode mean? I hugged my granddaughter, trying to hide the trembling in my hands. Don't worry, sweetheart. I'm sure you misunderstood something. Adults sometimes say strange things that sound scary but actually mean something completely different, I thought feverishly. If Tristan really plans to get rid of me, I know or suspect too much. I need to take Piper to a safe place immediately and contact Evelyn and Leonard. Piper, do you want to come with me? I bought some new paints, much better than the ones you have in class. And there are special brushes for real artists. The girl's eyes lit up. Yes! Can we go right now? Of course. But first, let's call your mom and tell her you're coming with me, okay? I took out my phone and dialed Olivia's number. It rang, but she didn't answer. I left a voicemail. Olivia, it's Mom. Piper will be staying with me today. Pick her up in the evening. Taking my granddaughter by the hand, I led her to the exit. A plan formed in my head. First to Evelyn's, she lives 20 minutes away. Then call Leonard and ask for an immediate meeting, and under no circumstances would I return home or go near my car. We went down to the lobby and I saw what I feared most. Olivia was standing at the entrance, nervously glancing at her watch. Noticing us, she moved toward us. Mom, what are you doing here? Her voice was cold. I was at the library, I replied calmly. I ran into Piper after class. Grandma said she has special paints for real artists, Piper exclaimed excitedly. Can I go to her place? Olivia frowned. No, sweetie, you can't today. We have other plans. I squeezed my granddaughter's hand tighter. Olivia, I need to talk to you. Alone, I added, looking at Piper. Not now, Mom. We have to go. Piper, say goodbye to Grandma. I wasn't going to give up. It's about Tristan, and it's very serious. Something in my tone made Olivia stop. She looked at me intently, then turned to Piper. Honey, wait for me over there by the fountain. I'll be a minute. Piper reluctantly let go of my hand and walked over to the decorative fountain in the center of the lobby. What's wrong? Olivia asked as soon as her granddaughter was out of earshot. Tristan is planning to blow up my car, I said bluntly. Piper overheard him speaking in French. La voiture de la vieille dame. Elle explose demain. Olivia's face paled, but she quickly regained her composure. That's absurd. Piper must have misunderstood. She's just starting to learn French. Olivia, listen to me. I've been followed for several days. Tristan has been meeting with suspicious people. Something is going on, and it's dangerous. You're just a lonely woman with an overactive imagination, Olivia snapped. But fear flashed in her eyes. If you don't believe me, let's test it. Don't get in Tristan's car. Don't let Piper get in it, at least for a day or two. Olivia looked at me with an unreadable expression. Mom, you have no proof. Just the words of a 6-year-old who doesn't understand French very well. You are making serious accusations against my husband, the father of my daughter. Olivia, please, I took her hands. If I'm wrong, we'll laugh about it in a few days. But if I'm not... At that moment, Tristan entered the hall. Seeing Olivia and me, he froze for a moment, then quickly approached. There you are. His voice sounded too loud, too fake. I've been looking everywhere for you. Tristan? Olivia said in surprise. You said you'd be busy until evening. He smiled tensely. I finished early. I thought I could pick up my girl from class. His gaze stopped on me and I felt a chill. There was no warmth in his eyes, only calculation. Beatrice, what a pleasant surprise. Are you also interested in painting? I was in the library, I repeated my story. I'm researching French dialects. It's always been my passion. Something flashed in his eyes. Anxiety? Anger? He quickly regained his composure. How interesting. Perhaps we should talk about it. I have a few books that might interest you. I'd love to. I nodded. By the way, I'm having car trouble. Would you give me a ride home, Tristan? It was a risky move, but I wanted to test his reaction. Tristan paled slightly. Unfortunately, I have business on the other side of town. But I can call you a taxi. No need, I'll be fine, I smiled. Olivia, do you mind if Piper spends the evening at my place? I bought some new art supplies. Tristan answered before Olivia could. I'm afraid that won't be possible today. We have family plans, right, dear? He looked at his wife. Olivia hesitated, her gaze shifting from me to her husband. Yes, we have plans. I realized I couldn't take Piper away now. But I also couldn't just leave my granddaughter with a man who might have been planning a murder. Then maybe we could have dinner together, I suggested. I'll make my signature lasagna. Another time, Tristan said firmly. Piper, come on! He called to his granddaughter, who had been watching us from the fountain the whole time. Piper approached, clutching her drawing tightly. Grandma, are you sure you're not going to get in your car? She asked quietly. Tristan looked sharply at his daughter, then at me. His eyes showed undisguised anger. Of course not, sweetie, I assured her. I'll take a taxi. It's time to go. Tristan took Piper by the hand and pulled her toward the exit. Wait, Olivia stopped him. Mom, we really can't today, but tomorrow I'll bring Piper to you, okay? It was a small victory. Olivia had doubts, and those doubts could play a decisive role. Of course, dear. I'll be waiting for you tomorrow. I hugged Piper and whispered in her ear. Everything will be fine, my brave girl. Remember that Grandma loves you. They left, Tristan in front almost dragging Piper behind him, Olivia a little behind with a worried look on her face. She looked back at the last moment, and in her eyes I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Concern for me. As soon as they disappeared behind the doors, I quickly left through another exit and hurried to a phone booth on the corner. I didn't want to use my cell phone. I dialed Evelyn's number. Eve, it's me. The situation is critical. Tristan is planning to eliminate me. Piper overheard him talking about blowing up my car. Oh my God, B! Are you safe? For now. But Piper and Olivia are with him. I need to get them out of there. Where are you now? At the community center. I can't use my car. I can't go home. Wait there. I'll be there in 20 minutes. And B, be careful. After hanging up, I went back into the center and sat down in a cafe with a good view of the entrance. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, but my mind remained clear. Now my goal was clearer than ever, to save my granddaughter and daughter from a man who was far more dangerous than I could have imagined. Evelyn arrived exactly 20 minutes later. Her silver sedan pulled up at the side entrance of the community center, where I had gone to avoid possible surveillance. Get in quickly, she said as soon as I opened the door. I jumped into the passenger seat, and the car started moving before I had a chance to fasten my seatbelt. Evelyn drove confidently, frequently glancing in the rearview mirror. Are you sure no one was following you? She asked, turning sharply onto a side street. I can't say for sure, but I tried to be careful. Evelyn nodded. Unlike my usually impeccably dressed friend, she was now wearing simple jeans, a dark jacket, and a baseball cap that hid her distinctive gray streak. Tell me everything from the beginning, she demanded when we pulled onto the highway. I recounted the events of the last few hours, the conversation with Piper, her warning about Tristan's plans, the confrontation at the community center, my brother-in-law's strange reaction. So Piper heard specific words about your car being blown up? Evelyn clarified, turning onto a quiet road leading to the suburbs. Yes, la voiture de la vieille dame. Elle explose domaine. Given her limited knowledge of French, it's unlikely she could have made that up. I agree. What about Olivia? How did she react? I saw doubt in her eyes. I think she suspects something is wrong with Tristan, but she's afraid to admit it. We drove for another half hour, away from Lynn toward the coast. Finally, Evelyn turned into a small 2-story house surrounded by pine trees. The place seemed secluded. The nearest neighbors were a considerable distance away. We're here. This is my country house. No one knows I have it, not even my family. I bought it under a different name. I looked at my friend in surprise. Why all the secrecy? Evelyn smiled sadly and turned off the engine. A translator who works with diplomats and business people learns a lot of secrets. Sometimes you need a place to wait out the storm. Come on, let's talk inside. The house was cozy and well furnished, though with a minimum of personal belongings. In the living room stood a massive oak table covered with papers and several laptops. I made some inquiries about your son-in-law, Evelyn said, turning on the kettle, and I discovered some interesting details. Tristan Abbott does indeed work at the consulate, but his position is just a cover. A cover for what? According to my sources, he's connected to a group that trades confidential information. Industrial espionage, state secrets, personal data of high-ranking officials. Everything is for sale. I sank into a chair, feeling my heart pounding. But how does this relate to me? Why did he decide I was a threat? Evelyn took a folder out of the desk drawer and handed it to me. Maybe because of this. I checked the names of the men you described, the ones Tristan met at the cafe. Look at the photo. Inside the folder was a printout of a news article in French with a photo. It showed a tall man with gray temples and a thin mustache, one of the men I had seen with Tristan. Maurice Dupont, I read the caption. A well-known businessman, suspected of ties to organized crime? This man is a key figure in an international network of information traders, Evelyn explained. If Tristan works for him and you accidentally witnessed their meeting and started asking questions, I've signed my own death warrant, I finished the sentence. Exactly. And now Piper knows too much. And Olivia may be starting to suspect something. Panic seized me. Piper, we have to get her out of there. If Tristan realizes she's talked... Calm down, B. Evelyn put her hand on my shoulder. We can't just kidnap a child. We need evidence. We need to go through official channels. We don't have time, I exclaimed. Tristan is already trying to get rid of me. What's to stop him from getting rid of anyone who stands in his way? Evelyn thought for a moment, tapping her fingers on the table. Do you have any contacts in law enforcement? Someone you trust completely? I remembered Neil Forrest, a former colleague from university who had left academia to become a consultant for the FBI. There is one person, Neil Forrest. We taught together about 20 years ago, then he moved into security. Now he consults for the FBI on linguistic issues. Sounds promising. Do you have his contact information? I nodded. In my phone. We keep in touch, wish each other happy holidays. Call him. Just be careful what you say. We don't know if your phone is being tapped. I took out my phone and dialed Neil's number. After 3 rings, he answered. Beatrice? What a pleasant surprise. How are you? Neil, I need your help. I tried to speak calmly. It's about my family. I can't explain over the phone, but it's very serious. Pause. Where are you now? In a safe place, with a friend. Okay, I'll come to you. Tell me where. I looked at Evelyn and she nodded. I'll text you the address. How soon can you get here? In 2 hours, maybe sooner. Thank you, Neil. This is really important. After the call, Evelyn helped me compose a text message with the address, avoiding any direct references. Then she made us tea, and we sat down to discuss our next steps. What will we tell Neil when he gets here? I asked. The truth, Evelyn replied. All your observations, suspicions, Piper's warning, plus the information I've gathered about Tristan and his connections. If your friend really has connections to the FBI, he'll know what to do. We spent the next hour organizing all the facts. Evelyn showed me the results of her investigation. Copies of documents, photographs, newspaper clippings. It turned out that she had managed to compile an impressive dossier on Tristan and his contacts. How did you manage to get all this information? I asked in surprise. Years of working as a high-level translator, Evelyn shrugged. Many people still owe me favors, and I never forget faces or names. Suddenly we heard the sound of a car pulling up. We both tensed. It's too early for Neil, Evelyn whispered, approaching the window. Damn! Who is it? I felt a chill run down my spine. A woman behind the wheel. Looks like your daughter. I ran to the window. Sure enough, Olivia was getting out of a silver crossover. She looked both alarmed and determined. How did she find us? I asked in a panic. Maybe she tracked your phone, or she followed us. Tristan could have put a GPS tracker on your clothes. Olivia walked up to the door and knocked firmly. What should we do? I looked at Evelyn. Let's talk to her. Maybe she came alone. Maybe she's on our side. Evelyn opened the door. Olivia stood in the doorway, clutching her bag to her chest. Her face was pale and her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. Where's my mother? She demanded. I stepped into the hallway. Olivia, I'm here. Come in. My daughter stepped inside, looking around warily. What's going on, Mom? Why did you run away? Why aren't you answering your phone? Did you come alone? I asked instead of answering. Yes, I told Tristan I was going to a friend's house, she said, looking down. I had time to think about what you said, about Piper's warning, and I checked Tristan's call history. There are a lot of numbers with the international code for France. Where's Piper? My voice was shaking. With Tristan. He picked her up from school early, said they were going to an amusement park. But I'm not sure. He's been acting strange, nervous. After Piper talked to you, he questioned her for hours. I felt a chill. Olivia, your husband is dangerous. He's selling information, and now he's trying to get rid of anyone who could expose him. Olivia shook her head, but her eyes betrayed her fear. That can't be. He loves us. He loves Piper. Then why did he plan to blow up my car? Why was he following me? Why was he interrogating a 6-year-old child? Olivia sank into a chair, her shoulders slumped. I don't know what to think. When Piper told me what she heard, I almost convinced myself it was a child's fantasy. But then I remembered all the strange phone calls, all the unexplained absences, all the secrets. Olivia, I walked over to my daughter and took her hands. We have to protect Piper. My friend from the FBI will be here soon. He'll help us. The FBI? Olivia asked fearfully. Did you call the feds on my husband? I felt her pull away. Olivia, understand, this isn't just a family quarrel. Tristan is involved in serious crimes, and he's willing to eliminate anyone who gets in his way. No, you don't understand, Olivia said, standing up abruptly. If you involve the FBI, they'll destroy our family. They'll take Piper away. They'll put Tristan in prison. If what we've discovered is true, Tristan deserves to be in prison, Evelyn said firmly. Olivia turned to her, her eyes narrowing. Who are you to judge my family? You don't know anything about us. Olivia, calm down. I tried to take my daughter's hand, but she pulled it away. No, you calm down, Mom. You've always done this. Interfered in my life. Tried to control everything. Now you want to destroy my marriage, take my daughter away. I'm trying to protect you both, I argued, feeling anger rising inside me. Protect? From whom? From the man who has provided for us for the last 8 years? Who loves Piper more than life itself? Olivia, listen to yourself, Evelyn interjected. Your mother isn't making this up. We have evidence that your husband is involved with dangerous people, that he was planning to eliminate Beatrice. Olivia shook her head, her lips pressed into a thin line. I came for my mother to make sure she's okay, but I won't let you destroy my family. She turned toward the door, but I blocked her way. Where are you going? Home, to my daughter, to my husband. Olivia, think. If Tristan finds out you were here, that you talked to me, he won't find out, she snapped. I'll say I couldn't find you. What if he already knows? What if he followed you? A shadow of doubt crossed Olivia's face, but she quickly regained her composure. I checked the car for bugs. I'm not as naive as you think, Mom. She headed resolutely for the door. I looked helplessly at Evelyn, who quickly went to the window. Wait, Olivia, Evelyn stopped her. I think we have visitors. We all went to the window. A black SUV with no license plates was slowly moving down the driveway. That's not Neil, I whispered. He would have come in his own car or a taxi. Someone was following me, Olivia whispered in horror. Oh my God, what have I done? Quick, through the back door, Evelyn commanded, grabbing a folder of documents and her laptop from the table. I have a second car in the garage. We hurried through the kitchen to the back door leading to the garage attached to the house. Evelyn quickly entered the code on the electronic lock, and the garage door opened to reveal an old but well-maintained Jeep. Get in! Evelyn threw her things on the back seat and got behind the wheel. Olivia hesitated. Wait, what about Piper? I can't leave my daughter. If these people are working with Tristan, you won't be helping Piper by falling into their hands, I said sharply. Get in the car! The sound of the front door slamming made us all jump. There were people in the house. Hurry up, Evelyn hissed. Olivia finally made up her mind and jumped into the back seat. I sat down next to Evelyn. The engine roared to life at the first turn of the key, and the SUV rolled out of the garage onto a narrow forest road leading away from the house. Where are we going? I asked as we drove deeper into the forest. There's another safe place, an old motel 40 miles from here. The owner is a former client of mine. He doesn't ask questions. Olivia sat huddled in the back seat. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with shock. What will happen to Piper now? She asked, barely audibly. I turned to my daughter. We'll find her, Olivia. We'll save her, I promise. How? We don't even know where she is. And if what you're saying about Tristan is true. She didn't finish, but we all understood the unspoken thought. If Tristan was really dangerous, Piper could be in serious danger. Neil will help us, I said firmly. I'll contact him as soon as we're safe. Evelyn skillfully navigated the winding forest roads, avoiding the main highways. She periodically glanced in the rearview mirror to check for tailing vehicles. The coast is clear, she reported after another check. But we can't relax. These people are professionals. How did they find us? I asked. We were so careful. Maybe they tracked Olivia's phone, Evelyn suggested. Or my cover wasn't as reliable as I thought. Olivia suddenly leaned forward. Wait, I have an idea. I can track Piper's location. Her backpack has a GPS tracker. I installed it when she started going to school on her own. Do you have access to it now? I asked hopefully. Yes, through an app on my phone. If Piper has her backpack with her, check it, Evelyn nodded. But be prepared that Tristan may have discovered the tracker. Olivia took out her phone and opened the app. After a few taps on the screen, she exhaled. There's a signal. Piper. She's on Highway 95. Heading towards Portsmouth. Is Tristan trying to leave the state? Evelyn suggested. Or even the country, I added grimly. There's a port in Portsmouth. We need to follow them, Olivia said decisively. Right now. Evelyn shook her head. It's too dangerous. Tristan may have accomplices. We need law enforcement assistance. But by the time we wait for the police, they'll be too far away, Olivia exclaimed. I squeezed my daughter's hand. Evelyn's right. We can't act alone. Neil is our best chance. He can mobilize federal resources faster than we can get to Portsmouth. Olivia stared at her phone screen, tracking the movement of the small dot that represented her daughter. I hope you're right, Mom, she whispered. Because if something happens to Piper, I'll never forgive myself. Evelyn turned onto a dirt road that led deeper into the forest. We're almost there. This place isn't marked on any map. From here, we'll contact Neil and tell him everything. I nodded, feeling the adrenaline begin to give way to exhaustion. The events of the last few days had finally caught up with me, but I knew I couldn't afford to relax. Not now, when my granddaughter was in danger and Tristan was hot on our trail. An old wooden house appeared ahead, almost hidden behind tall pine trees. Evelyn stopped the Jeep and turned off the engine. We're here. We'll be safe here, at least for now. Evelyn's safe house, hidden among tall pine trees, was the perfect hideout. It was a simple wooden structure with minimal amenities, but it had reliable satellite communications and solar panels that provided energy independence. The first thing we did once we were inside was contact Neil Forrest, who had already left for the previous address. Neil, plans have changed, I said when he picked up the phone. We had to move urgently. We were being followed. Beatrice, what's going on? His voice sounded alarmed. I briefly outlined the situation. Tristan, his connections to information dealers, the threat of an explosion, Piper's kidnapping. We're tracking the GPS beacon on my granddaughter's backpack, I added. They're heading towards Portsmouth. Tristan may be planning to leave the country. Send me the tracker's coordinates, Neil responded quickly. I'll contact the local agents. And tell me where you are now. Olivia, sitting next to me, flinched. I covered her hand with mine. Can we trust him? She whispered. Yes, I replied firmly and dictated the coordinates of our hideout to Neil. Stay where you are, he ordered. I'll be there in an hour with a support team. Evelyn, who had been sitting at her laptop the whole time, looked up. While we wait, we need to organize all the evidence we have, she said. We have Beatrice's observation notes, my research on Tristan's connections, Piper's warning, the fact that he was being followed, and the attempted elimination. Is that enough? Olivia asked doubtfully. We need irrefutable evidence to make an arrest. We'll provide enough information to start the investigation, Evelyn replied. The feds will do the rest. We spent the next hour compiling all the facts into a single file. Olivia, overcoming her inner resistance, also contributed. She provided the dates of Tristan's strange absences, mentioned the unexplained cash deposits into their account, and told about the locked safe in his office, which she was never allowed to look into. I always thought it was business papers related to his diplomatic work, she said quietly. He talked about confidentiality, about state secrets. He took advantage of your trust, I said gently. It's not your fault. Olivia shook her head. No, it is. I turned a blind eye to all the oddities. Even when my intuition screamed that something was wrong, I chose to ignore it. Why? I asked the question that had tormented me for years. My daughter was silent for a long time, then said, because I was afraid of being alone, like you. Those words hit harder than any physical blow. You've always been so self-sufficient, Mom, Olivia continued. Your work, your research, your books. Even when Dad was alive, you were always separate. And I wanted a family. A real one, a whole one. I wanted to argue, to say that I had always loved her, that I had always put family first, but deep down I knew there was some truth in her words. My dedication to science and my perfectionism at work sometimes distanced me from those closest to me. I never wanted you to feel lonely, I said quietly. The sound of approaching cars interrupted our conversation. Evelyn looked out the window. 2 SUVs, one of them is a government vehicle. We watched tensely as several people approached the house. Neil was in front, a tall, graying man with a military bearing. Next to him were 2 men in dark suits, clearly agents. Stay inside, Evelyn commanded. I'll check their credentials. She went out onto the porch and a minute later brought the guests into the house. Neil immediately came up to me and gave me a big hug. Beatrice, you have no idea how glad I am that you're okay. What about my daughter? Olivia interjected, looking tensely at the agents. Have you found Piper? Neil exchanged glances with his companions. We found Tristan Abbott's car in a parking lot near the port in Portsmouth. The GPS tracker on your daughter's backpack is there too. The area is cordoned off and a search is underway. My daughter still hasn't been found? Olivia turned pale. We're doing everything we can, one of the agents assured her. The port is large, but no one has left the area since the signal was received. We quickly handed the dossier we had compiled to Neil. He looked through the materials, nodding periodically. This is serious, he concluded. International trade in classified information, threats, possible child abduction. I think we have enough for an arrest warrant. At that moment, the agent's phone rang. He stepped away, answered briefly, and returned with a tense expression. The subject has been located. He's trying to board a private yacht. The child is with him. I'm coming with you, Olivia jumped up. It's too dangerous, ma'am, the agent objected. She's my daughter. Olivia's voice was steely. I'm coming with you, or I'm going on my own. Neil looked at me. Beatrice? I'm coming too, I said firmly. Piper will be calmer if she sees familiar faces. After a brief discussion, the agents agreed. Olivia and I were put in the second SUV, and the 2-car convoy sped off toward Portsmouth. The drive took about 40 minutes. The whole time, I held Olivia's hand, feeling her tremble with tension. I understood that whatever our relationship was, we were now united by a common goal: to save Piper. The port of Portsmouth greeted us with gray skies and the smell of salt. The area was already cordoned off, with uniformed and plainclothes officers everywhere. We were led to the command post, a van filled with monitors and communications equipment. The target is on the yacht Sea Star, said the head of operations, pointing to the screen. Berth 17, he has a child and 2 other men with him, presumably armed. Oh my God, Olivia gasped. We have been negotiating, but to no avail, the commander continued. He is demanding unimpeded access to the sea and threatening the child's life. I felt the blood drain from my face. He's bluffing, Olivia said firmly. He would never hurt Piper. He loves her. Ma'am, we can't take any chances in this situation, replied the commander. The assault team is getting ready. No, exclaimed Olivia. Let me talk to him. He'll listen to me. The agents exchanged glances. It might work, Neil said slowly. If his wife shows up unexpectedly, it will throw him off balance. It will give us an advantage. After a long discussion, the plan was approved. Olivia would contact Tristan and try to convince him to surrender. Meanwhile, the assault team would prepare for the capture. I was to remain at the command post, watching the operation on the monitors. Olivia was equipped with a protective vest and a microphone. Before leaving, she turned to me. Mom, if something goes wrong, remember that I always loved you. Even when we fought, even when I was cold. I hugged my daughter, feeling tears well up in my eyes. I love you too, Olivia. I always have. She left, accompanied by 2 agents. I leaned in close to the monitor, which showed the pier and a white yacht at the dock. Tristan was standing on the deck, holding Piper by the shoulders. Even through the screen, I could see how frightened the girl was. Olivia walked to the edge of the pier. The loudspeaker in her hand amplified her voice. Tristan, it's me, Olivia. There was movement on the yacht. Tristan leaned toward Piper, then straightened up. Olivia, what are you doing here? His voice, amplified by another loudspeaker, sounded tense. I came for our daughter, Olivia replied. What's going on, Tristan? Why are you running away? Don't come any closer, he shouted. They're watching you. Who, Tristan? Who's following me? The feds, your mother, all of them. Olivia took another step forward. Let Piper go, Tristan. She's scared. No, she's coming with me. We'll be safe in France. Tristan, there are agents everywhere. They won't let you leave. Think of Piper. I saw my granddaughter trembling as she clung to her father's hand. Her red hair was tousled by the wind, and her little face was contorted with fear. Suddenly, she turned her head and noticed Olivia. Mommy! She cried. Mommy! She tried to break free, but Tristan held her tight. Tristan, I know everything, Olivia continued. About your business, about trading information. Beatrice told me. I saw the evidence. Tristan's face contorted with anger. That old woman. I knew she would ruin everything. She was always watching me, always suspicious. Because she cares about us, Olivia replied. About our safety. I saw the assault team slowly advancing toward the yacht from the neighboring berths. 2 snipers took up positions on the roof of the nearest warehouse. The operation was entering its decisive phase. Tristan, Olivia took another step. Let Piper come back to me. This is between you and the feds. She has nothing to do with it. Something changed in Tristan's face. He seemed to realize the hopelessness of the situation. You're in cahoots with them, he said bitterly. You betrayed me, Olivia. No, Tristan, you betrayed us. You've been lying to me all this time. You used our family as a cover. Tristan shook his head. You don't understand. I did it for us, for our future. Let Piper go, Olivia repeated. Please. The agonizing seconds dragged on. Finally, Tristan leaned over to Piper and whispered something in her ear. Then he gently pushed her toward the bridge connecting the yacht to the pier. Go to your mother, he said loudly. Piper, unable to believe her luck, rushed to Olivia. As soon as they embraced, the assault team stormed the yacht. Tristan and his accomplices were disarmed and arrested without a single shot being fired. I ran out of the command post and hurried to the pier. Olivia was holding Piper in her arms, pressing her close. When she saw me, my granddaughter cried out joyfully, Grandma! I hugged them both, feeling the tension of the last few days finally leave me. It's over, I whispered. It's over. We watched as Tristan was led away from the yacht in handcuffs. His face was contorted with anger and despair. Passing by us, he stopped and looked straight at me. You ruined everything, he hissed. We could have been happy. Happiness cannot be built on lies, I replied calmly. The agents took him away. Neil approached us and reported that documents and electronic media containing classified information intended for sale had been found on the yacht. Tristan's case was closed before it even went to trial. The next few days were spent giving testimony, being questioned, and filling out paperwork. Olivia remained steadfast, answering all the investigators' questions. Piper, after the initial shock, also came to her senses and told how her dad had suddenly taken her out of school, saying they were going on a special trip. "He said you and Grandma would join us later," she explained to Olivia. "But I knew he was lying, because Grandma said she wouldn't get in the car." I kissed my clever granddaughter's head, thanking fate for her observant nature and courage. A week later, Olivia and I sat in my garden watching Piper play with the new paints I had given her. My daughter was pensive and quiet. "What's next?" I finally asked. Olivia shrugged. "I don't know. I'll sell the house. Too many memories. Maybe we'll move to another city and start over." "You could stay," I suggested cautiously. "There are good schools for Piper and Lynn." Olivia shook her head. "No, Mom, I need space. Time to think things through. To understand how I could have been so blind." "I understand," I nodded, feeling my heart tighten. "But remember, my door is always open to you." "Thank you," she replied quietly. "For everything, for not giving up, even when I pushed you away, for saving Piper." She paused, then added, "But I can't be with you right now, Mom. It hurts too much to realize that you were right all along and I didn't listen." Her words hurt, but I understood. Olivia needed to get through this crisis in her own way. "I'll be here when you're ready," I said, "and I hope you'll let me see Piper." "Of course," Olivia smiled weakly. "She adores you, and so do I, Mom. Even if I don't always show it." A month later, Olivia and Piper moved to Vermont. We agreed that my granddaughter would spend every other weekend and part of her vacations with me. It wasn't an ideal solution, but it was the best one possible under the circumstances. Tristan was sentenced to 15 years in prison for espionage, trading classified information, and attempted murder. His network was exposed, and many of his accomplices were arrested. Neil told me that my observations and persistence had helped uncover one of the largest espionage operations in recent years. Returning to my house, now empty and quiet without Piper's weekly visits, I stood at the window for a long time, looking at Olivia's house. It had already been sold, and the new owners were planning to move in a month. It was strange to realize that a whole chapter of my life had come to an end. But I didn't feel defeated. On the contrary, I felt a growing sense of confidence. I had done what I had to do. I had protected the people most dear to me, even if it meant breaking some ties. I took out my old research materials from the closet, a project I had abandoned after Arthur's death. It was a study of the dialectal features of Romance languages in border regions. It had once been my passion, my calling. Perhaps it was time to return to it. Perhaps 75 isn't such an advanced age for a new beginning. I still had connections in the academic world, the respect of my colleagues, and a thirst for knowledge. And most importantly, I had Piper, a girl with red hair and a sharp mind, who had inherited my observant nature and Arthur's courage. For her sake, it was worth continuing to live life to the fullest, to be an example, to be a support. I called Evelyn and suggested we have dinner together. Then I dialed Neil's number. It was high time to renew old ties. Life went on, opening new doors where old ones had closed. Sometimes to protect those you love, you have to break toxic ties. Sometimes you have to let go in order to preserve. It took me 75 years to understand this simple truth. And now that I finally realized it, a new chapter was opening up ahead, perhaps not as turbulent as the previous ones, but no less significant.